Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hashtag blame potato. I'm gonna be honest. I've lost track.
Yes, it is. It is 19
Yeah,
next.
it's 19.
Jay, real quick, I think you're actually muted for your own stream because I can hear all of us when we're talking, but I can't hear you through the YouTube. Yeah. Maybe have a quick peek at that, maybe, or something.
Can you hear me now?
Let me check. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. Sorry, guys. So I've just done a quick introduction and muted myself. So, welcome everybody. We are going to be doing episode 10 live of On the Hook. So hopefully we'll have some questions fired in from people on the chat. But the first question I wanted to ask, guys, was about the game update. So are we happy with the changes that have been made this week? How are we finding it?
I guess I'll go first. Honestly, just with everything, with the HUD, with map changes and some little changes with some killers. It's been fairly enjoyable with the killer changes and the perk changes. It's been a bit frustrating with some of the bugs and some of the, fat shames but I'm someone who doesn't mind the HUD. It could be upgraded be a little bit better. So I'm actually fairly alright, mainly pretty neutral with this update.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else?
If we're just talking about the map itself, I think there's great changes to it. It's a lot more open, especially the center of the game, which is really, really good, especially for Blight in particular. I think there's a lot of god palettes on that map now, which weren't there before, and the breakable walls are a bit of an issue as well. But overall, I like the map changes. I'm sure we'll talk about the HUD and stuff in a bit, but in terms of the map, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Potato just said, there's a lot more force break palettes on the map, which I think is a step backwards. And it seems like there's also just a lot more palettes than there used to be. You have like maybe 2 or 3 lined up in a row that you just have to break, and that can get pretty boring as a killer. But then on the flip side of the coin, once all those pallets are gone, there's nothing for the survivors to do except hold W. I think the game is still a really not so interesting map gameplay wise. It looks great visually, but it's just it's pretty awful, I'd say.
The game map, interesting you mentioned that. If I play Survivor, I'm really enjoying that map. But is it just me, or have they seemed to have stacked the place with pallets?
Wasn't there I'm pretty sure there was people who were counting and they were mentioning that there was between 24 and 26 pallets on the map, and 6 of them were god pallets, unless playing like clown or something.
Yeah.
With both, the speed and slowdown bottles.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's just
Those are actually still God pellets, even for like a new clown. Like God pellets are unplayable. That's why they are called God pellets. You can't play around it. You have to break it. Like even if you have the speed boost with the bottles now, it's God pellets stay God pellets. The rest of the new pellets are mostly safe. Those are playable now with the bottle placement, with the speed boost and stuff like that. But God pellets are unplayable. That's why they called God pellets. You have to break them, and there's only one way through it, by breaking the pellet. There's like infinite if you don't break it. And that's why they called God pellets. Like you can't play around it. Then that's like the biggest shit that they ever did. It's like they thought, oh, we got rid of infinite. Hey, now let's add them back into the game. You know, it's like in God pellets is just the worst design in the game that they could possibly chosen for that for any map in particular. Like especially that the game had 5 God pellets before, and they added one on top of that, which no one needed that. You know. Like instead of adding more windows, so survivors have more possibilities to use perks like life or something like that, or can get out of the bathroom, for example. That is like just a death trap in general. Like they just added more pellets on top of more pellets. You know, it's just a lazy design, and I just don't want devs to actually update any maps now because they make all maps far worse than they were.
well, what I found with the game map in particular was all the pallets. I don't know about you guys, but some of the mannequins that were, the design mannequins that have gone in there, the legs were sticking out, and I couldn't really hug the walls without having to avoid those as well, which made the pallets extremely safe for the survivors. I was just running around, just waiting for them to drop it. There was no mind game; they could see over the top. So, yeah, not really particularly happy. What do you guys think about hitboxes? How's your hitboxes been this week?
Oh dear lord.
Oh my lord! Can I go first? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Go
because
for it.
I am boycotting Survivor now until they fix it because it is absolutely ridiculous. And to top it off with the animations being terrible enough, we've now got these annoying hitboxes. When you loop a killer around a tight loop, and you need to judge it perfectly if you can make another loop or not. But because of the hitboxes, when they swing and they hit you from a good 10 feet away, it just is so frustrating, and you have to now drop pallets early. You're losing chases because of this. It's so frustrating. And another thing as well is the Survivor lobby times are actually instant because nobody wants to play Survivor right now. So therefore, queue times for killer have gone through the roof. They need to fix this ASAP. Is a massive priority. It's really unfair for survivors. And on another note, when I played killer, and for me on my screen it looks like I genuinely hit them, but when I look back at someone else's footage, like I had a streamer who I watched back, on his screen, I kid you not, it literally looked like I hit him good 20 feet away, but on my screen it was literally perfect. So it's something that needs to be fixed ASAP.
It's desync though. It's not hitbox. It's desync. They sped up the animations. Like they are still the same, but it looks faster. That's why the survivor is like already gone, while for the killer that is still as the old movement and the old animations, it's not sped up. For the killer, it's like right in front of him and he can easily hit that. But for the survivor, you're miles away. Like on the survivor screen, the killer's miles away. And that's just because, and I just say it all the time, it's like they added something no one asked for, and now they have the broken game because they added something no one asked for. And they suck in implementing new things. It's just like, it's always like this. It's always like they do something no one asked for, and then that breaks the game. They have to fix it and waste resources in fixing it. And it's just like they just suck in anything. Like they can't balance, they can't do animations, they can't design a UI. I don't know what this company is doing. Like I think personally, new animations were not necessary. And now they are in the game, and the game is completely broken. Like you have people that are stuck in God bus. You can't pass through something in asylum, through some doorways and asylum and stuff like that, just because the new animations just fucked over the whole system that worked before. Like even you were floating over the ground and you were not really running, but they worked. Like hitboxes never worked, they never fixed them. But like now it's not hitboxes, it's the huge desync, that's the issue. And it's just because they are stubborn in thinking what they want in the game, everyone else wants in the game, but no one asked for new animations, and they are in, they look shit, and they cause more problems than like actually improving the game.
Yeah, what Salty just said, like it's a latency issue. It's network desync. I don't know how they somehow messed that up, but it's a thing. It's sort of noticeable on killer side as well, because I've been noticing like I'll get stunned by a pallet and I'll teleport to the same side that the survivor's on, even though like they stunned me way before. So yeah, definitely something wrong with their networking.
Yeah, I've noticed that with the pallet as well, and we've got Joel has put on that he played Bubba, and I've seen it on other YouTubers' videos where you chainsaw, you're just walking through the pallet as if it's not even there. I played as a survivor today, and it was an awful game. I got hit round the corners. I was literally behind one of the cinder blocks on Badhams, and I got hit. I ran past the window, and I know if you get too close to the window, you can get down, but I was a good 10 foot away from the window, and the Huntress just M1'd me through it, and I was like, that is enough Dead by Daylight for today. Just while we're talking about the FPS and the desync, and have you guys noticed that gens are going quick now? I think it was you, Cptsalty, mentioned that.
Holy shit, yeah, man. Like in every game I have like baby survivor at Gen Rush. Like it's just that you are not able to with the shell skill check now with like the FPS staying constant the whole time. It's like people that never did anything else than gens, like now the gens are flying. They still fucking sucking looping and you outplay them stuff, but all they have to do is gens now and go out of the game. It's like most of my games are 2Ks now because I have to juggle like chases, breaking pallets, and having to defend all the generators. And Baby Survivor is basically gen rushing right now. It's really terrible.
Yeah. Anybody else notice that? I mean, it was only literally when Cptsalty said it during the week that I thought, actually, yeah, you could be right here, because I've noticed that gens are going quicker, but I've just put it down to, I don't know, I've just put it down to me being maybe not as efficient in the game or along them lines. But has anyone else noticed that?
Yes.
Yeah. You want to go, Potato?
No, go on, yeah, go on.
Yeah, certainly they have been going a lot quicker because of simply the FPS increase with the skill checks. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's 60 FPS now, and before was it like 30 or something? So it's just been a lot easier to get great skill checks, and when it's a lot easier to get great skill checks, gens obviously fly down a lot quicker. But honestly, I honestly haven't really had too much issues with it. I still mainly 4K most of my games with, unless I'm using like a full mad grit sort of thing. But I haven't really had too many issues. But yeah, when I've played Survivor or something, I've noticed like gen rushing a lot more. But I haven't really noticed it too much with Killer. But it is noticeable with like some games.
Yeah.
So myself, I'm actually on the same page as Salty here. Yesterday was one of the worst games I've had. I mean, even though they're potato survivors who can't loot me very well, they're just sort of holding down W, going to the other side of the map, and then gens are just flying way quicker than they normally do. When you've been playing Killer for a very long time, you sort of get an inkling of when gens should be popping. But yesterday, my goodness, they were flying so fast, and it was honestly really insanely difficult to try and defend them. Every game was a sweat. Even though the survivors weren't particularly good, every game was a sweat. And I don't know if that is because they're all hitting great skill checks and the gens are just generally flying quicker, or is it because the new animations, nobody wants to loop you because the hitboxes and stuff. They'd rather just sit and do gens rather than get into chase. I haven't really had anyone come up to me, teabag, clicky click, trying to get my attention and do something different. It's like they all just want to do gens, get their points, and get out because no one wants to play Survivor that way anymore. Maybe that's it. Or they've just sneakily cranked up the gen speed progress bar and not told anyone. But that's what it feels like. Yeah, the gen speeds for me this week have been quite fast.
From a Survivor perspective, skill checks definitely feel smoother. But I don't know if it's just because like I don't pay attention, but from Killer perspective, the game seems fine. Like, I'm not seeing gens go faster than normal, and that could be due to the fact that the gen counter is so out of the way that I don't even bother looking at it, but games have felt pretty much the same from killer perspective. So I don't know if I'm just getting lucky or if that's just a placebo with the new UI, but I haven't really noticed a difference from killer perspective.
I've
Yeah.
had a fair few games that have like flown by way quicker than I expected them to, just because of the new. I think it's definitely down to the skill checks being smoother, because as well, like I use oppression a lot, and pretty much most of my builds I use that perk a lot, and it's went from one of those things where most of the time survivors would mess it up to now they're very, very rarely messing it up because it's so easy and so smooth for them to just hit it in the tiny little zone that it gives you. Like I definitely think them smoothing out the skill checks has made gens just fly, and it's really difficult to deal with.
Yeah, I noticed that with Ruin Grounds, like I'm pressing off the gens. The gens regress, and the gen is regressing back to 100 to 0 from 100 or almost. I have one chase, and then next time, like the gen is flying like in 40 seconds. Like it's ridiculous. Not even Ruin does anything. No, it's like holy shit. Like even if you pressure the gens while managing your chases, ending your chases fast, going back to the gen, pushing them off and stuff like that, they still do the gens that completely regress to 0% faster than you would expect them to do it. Like it's ridiculous.
Well,
And it's like every game was a sweat for me. Like I had like maybe one game that was chill because I faced the survivor friends that just wanted to have fun and stuff like that. But like most games are like it's sweaty, and I'm not even pipping because of that. Like I'm getting brutal killer like almost every game now. And it's like if you want to get into higher ranks and you want to rank up, like not pipping is not a good idea. And I don't know, like it's terrible. Like you're just running after gens. Like you manage your chases, your early game is perfect, but you still in the end, like you just lose because people just do gens fast. It's just like I don't know what, but Survivor now is even easier than it was before.
Well, Tristan on chat said that him and his friends do fly through the generator with ease now, so it's obviously been noticed as from a survivor's perspective as well. It's interesting you mentioned about your pips there, Cptsalty. I know Joel's mentioned it on there as well. Are we all having issues with pips? Is it affecting killer as well, or just survivor?
I think it's actually just survivor. It's the survival category. If you do not escape, you do not get a pip. You don't get anything. It's just empty. So you have to escape every game to pip in that category. And I think if you're purple rank or higher, if you don't have anything in survival, you just get a D pip. So like I cannot keep I cannot keep rank 1. I can't even keep rank 2 because obviously you're paired with potatoes in solo queue and you're just going to die every game. So you're D-pipping. I think that's what's happening.
I actually D-ranked getting a 4K D-pipped.
Really? As killer?
Recently. Yeah, as killer.
Yeah. The reason
I D-pipped getting a 4K.
Yeah, the reason why I mentioned about killer was just because my last game as killer, I did get 3 kills hatch, but I had 10 hooks, 11 hooks, sorry. Someone escaped by a hatch, but it's because of my challenge. I can't remember what the challenge was now, is it? But I had to get 3 iridescent quality. I can't remember what exactly it was, but I haven't had it for a while, so I'm thinking, right, is there a problem from the killer's perspective as well? But I've found myself D-ranked a lot as survivor, and I'm not one of those survivors that survives all the time, so that probably explains it. But there was a game where I'd got 25,000 points, I'd got chases, got unhooks, got gens, done everything, and I D-pipped, and I was like, oh, it's a bit harsh, but I think there is a known issue, but I didn't know if it carried over to the survivors as well. Anything else on that, guys?
Yeah, you can D-pip as killer. I D-pipped as well, even after I got the 4K. Like one of my games, I had a 4K and I like safety pipped, like not even pipping. It's like what the fuck? Like I had 10 hooks and killed them all. And I 12 hooks, killed them all, and like had a lot of pellets broken and stuff like that, and I depipped. It's like, what the hell is wrong with the pip system right now? Like,
Yeah,
either you
doesn't
get
sound
brutal
right.
killer for like far too much work, and you feel like, why do I even play the game if like I sweat and in the end I don't even get something from that, you know? It's like not this simple, like, oh, you managed to get 2k against the survival friends with brand new parts that just rushed the gen as fast as possible, and you like did whatever you could to do to probably like do the best you could, and then in the end you don't get anything from that, you know? That are just blood points. But if your goal is to get rank up, like that doesn't do anything, and it's like it's like a dead zone for me right now. It's like for 18 games I haven't pipped, and it's like just frustrating and stuff, just because everything goes so fast and the pip system's broken and stuff like that. It just doesn't feel rewarding anymore to actually play well and outplay them stuff, because it doesn't matter in the end. It never mattered before. It never mattered if you out mind game them at chases, if they just hammer through the gens. Now it matters even less, and it's like it feels frustrating to play killer for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, from what you've said there as well, 4K, 12 hooks, there's no way that should be safe. I've seen people get 4K and get brutal killer because people have killed themselves on first hook, they've not been saved, things like that, but that doesn't sound right to me. Definitely doesn't sound right at all. Right.
The only other idea I could have with the pip things is they've implemented a new way for pipping to happen for when MMR and the rank thing changes. That's the only idea I could have, unless this is a bug.
Yeah, I personally think it's a bug, but
yeah, I think it's a bug, but yeah.
Yeah, basically, my what I always say is, if it's not in the patch notes, just assume it's a bug. It's probably unintended.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on then. So we've mentioned about a new HUD. Have you guys seen the new concept? Obviously, it was on Twitter. The developers, I thought it was quite ironic the way they said it. You know, they've heard us loud and clear. I thought it was ironic because they didn't really take the feedback from the PTB, wait till it went live and then put out that they've heard us loud and clear. And then they put a new concept on. Did you guys see that by any chance?
Yup.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think of it?
Better.
I mean, it's better, but like, I don't want everything shoved in the bottom left corner like that. They should just give us the option to put it where we want. Maybe some people want it at the top. Maybe some people want it on the right. Maybe some people want it on the bottom. Like, give us the option, because now I've played like over 50 games on this new HUD. I'm kind of gotten used to it. And where I have all my Streamlabs stuff, for me personally, I don't want it shoved in the bottom left corner because it would be blocking my Streamlabs stuff. So for me, I'd still like the option to move it, but they didn't even need to change it in the first place. And them apologizing and saying that we've listened to you is just such an insult, because everyone's been ranting and raving about the HUD since it was first released on the BTB.
Yeah.
So it's not an excuse. It's not good enough.
Yeah.
So. I think Monto made a good comment. He said the PTB is just to let you know what we're doing, and you guys can just suck a thing. But I don't want to say the word.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah,
I think this has kind of a survival friends mentality. Like, you can do everything wrong, and in the end you have like 3 or 5 outs and just like, oh, sorry, we just don't know, or just we read your feedback. Like, the why I put the survival friends is because survival friends know how to play this game. They know how to break it, and they already, like, if they fuck up too often, they still have a key to escape. You know, it's like basically nothing we can do can hurt them that much that they basically say, okay, we did a mistake. You know, it's like, okay, take your 3 bad points and we will listen to it. But instead of just listening to the feedback the first time before you even do that change, and like I said, without them changing that shit, we wouldn't have those bugs in the game right now, because they are all related to the new animations. And like I said, it's like the animation team sucks because they're probably mobile game designers. That's why we have mobile animations and stuff like that. But yeah, just don't do stuff that people don't want, and tell you they don't want, because it just doesn't work, and don't implement it into the game. Like, if you wasted resources on that, it's your own fault, because you never ask if you want that in the game, because you don't play the game, and you assume that the people that play the game want the changes you want for your game. But you have to understand that customer is king. If you say we don't want that, then don't waste resources on that shit.
Yeah, I mean, Nio mentioned something interesting during the week, because it was something that had crossed my mind as well. But you said, Nio, do you want to repeat what you said about the fact that you think it might be the reason why they changed it?
Wait, the reason they changed the overlay?
Yeah.
What I mentioned during the week was they might have new ideas for killers that would affect the overlay in a different way that could not be implemented properly with the current overlay the previous overlay that we did have. I believe is what I said, or something along that line.
Yeah, I mean, it could be true, but they've obviously, I have to agree with what you said, Potato, and I said at the beginning, it did seem quite ironic, the tweet, we have heard you loud and clear, but they didn't use the PTB. I think the same as some of the comments made. I do think it looks a bit clunky all down in the same thing, but then again, I mean, what people are going to say is, what are you going to be happy with? Because, we can complain when it's spread out, we complain when it's two together. The solution is the customization. Then you can have it however you want.
Agreed.
Have you had much use out of it, guys? Because for me personally, I'm finding myself now just playing without even realising. Tat, I know you mentioned earlier, you don't even look at your gen counter. I've been the same. I've been like, actually, I've just realised there's only one gen left, just because I don't look up there. Anyone else been having the same issues?
When it comes to gens, I don't know. I think when a gen, I don't really look at it, but when a gen pops, I've just got a mental number in my head all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when it comes to the amount of hook states, sometimes I don't mind having a look at a hook state to see if something is going wrong with it. If the gens are flying, I can look at the hook state quickly to see, okay, how am I doing on hook progress? Like, it's just been, I honestly like the little hook progress circle. I would honestly like it probably in a different spot, or make it that you can trigger it on and off. Like, I just want customization, and I just want more customization stuff, because I'm someone who likes the hook counter.
Yeah,
I think the total hook counter thing is just pointless. Like how survivors can see what hook state their teammates are on and themselves, the killers should just be able to see the same thing as well. I don't know why we can't see the little dashes to know which individual person has got how many lives left. I know this would encourage tunneling in a way, but if a killer's going to tunnel, he knows who he's going to tunnel. He's just hooked them. So let's put the counters like how survivors have. Get rid of that stupid little total counter thing, because I know how to count to 12. I'm not silly. And just make it adjustable. And in terms of the gens, it's an afterthought. Like, I'll hook someone and go, how many gens do I have left? And then I've got to look up and go, oh yeah, it's there. But unlike before, where when you're chasing someone, you sort of look in the corner of your eye to see it. It's not like that. It's always I've got to think about it now. But I just think that's going to take some getting used to. But I still don't know why they changed it in the first place, because it was just perfect the way it was before. If they really want to fix it, just bring the old HUD back and everyone's going to be happy.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I think Ted was it that said, like, I'm happy with that new change, because like useless informations like generators are not like where I don't need them, and now you don't even look at it. It's like the thing with that is, like, I personally, I don't even look at this HUD. Like, I just play by heart now. Like, and it's hard to play Ghostface 99 people without looking at the HUD, because you always try to look in the bottom left corner to see who's like 99 and stuff. And now you can't really see it, because if they are not on hooks, you can't see the progression of your stock. And the same with pick traps, it's the same problem. Even if they move the whole UI to the bottom, you can't see pick traps that are not active until you hook them. And only on the hook, because the hook has no portrait, it's still the old old icon of the hook. You can see the trap is on the head. You can only see when it's active, when they're actually downed or on the hook, which is stupid. Like, you can't track people who have traps, because especially if you play against survival friends, you have to search the boxes and select the people that try to get it off, because if they get it off, like, you have no pressure, you know? And if you can't track the people who have which traps not active, but they want to go and get it off, like, you don't know who is the trap now on a head. Have they removed it already? Because the only time you really clearly see the trap is when they are on a hook or downed. And that's an issue that is with a lot of killers that have to micromanage another status effect, like tormented effect. You can't see that, like, at all. Sometimes if you hook them or down them, because those are the only things that still have the old icons, which is like, what is the point of having portraits if you can't see the secondary effects that well?
I'm going to be honest, I never really had a problem with that. I didn't really have the problem with telling with like different states when peak traps was on the head. I personally didn't really have any problems with that. I don't know if I just got used to it very quickly, but I was relatively fine with it, and I do quite enjoy this HUD.
Something that's been bothering me is something that Not Queen said, because okay, so first they say that they've completely changed the HUD and they can't go back even if they wanted to, and now they're saying that they can go back but they won't. What's the story? There's so many conflicting answers from behavior, and I don't know really like what to trust from them at this point, because there's a lot of just conflicting information that they'll say like, oh, this is something that we can't revert, and then a few days later they say, well, actually we can, it's just we're not going to because it would be undoing a bunch of work. I don't understand why not just communicate your changes better in a way where people can understand why you need to change to begin with. Like they say, I mentioned this in like my recent video. It's just, if you say that you're wanting to add new features into the game that need you to update the UI, then you should probably tell us what those features are so that we can help you develop them properly. Because we don't want something like the new UI where everyone or most players are upset with it, even if I, still somewhat enjoy it, just the style. But the vast majority of players don't like it. We don't want things like Old Legion in the game. We don't want things like the bugged version of Ghostface on the PTB to come into the game. Ask your community for feedback early on in development more often, just like what you're doing with Object. Just ask the community for feedback, because time and time again has proven that while yes, you play your game, you do not understand your game, and you seriously need help from your community.
Yeah, and that's been a disappointing thing, is that they have been getting feedback on the PTB and they're not utilising it. So it does, I know I've watched other content creators and they're all saying the same thing. Why have a PTB? One person I heard, I can't remember who it was now, but said basically it's just for publicity, just to hype it up. YouTube gets flooded with all the PTB videos. It does get a lot of hype. So we'll see what happens. It's meant to be coming out in 4.5.2, so hopefully we'll see that. There's no date or anything, but we'll see what effects that has on there. There's a question, guys, from Tristan. Do you think making survivors first person could advance the game itself, allowing more physical interaction and immersion, and act as a buff for killers with the stalking ability? What do you think, guys?
Killers would become completely overpowered with that.
Yep.
They would just redesign the game. Basically.
It'd be a completely different game.
Yep, because survivor friends can't waste your time by looping the killer all the time, because if the survivor doesn't have the third person anymore, they can't loop. Like, they can just straight up just walk through a window and then run straight line, because the looping wouldn't be possible anymore, because the hitboxes would have been changed. And don't forget the bugs that would happen if they have to change the hitboxes of survivors to make first person work. It's like, it would just like, it would probably nerf survivor friends, which is a good thing, but like, it would kill solo queue completely.
Yeah, it would make Survivor significantly more difficult, and the only way like I think that would even be remotely possible is if you had like a quick camera turn mechanic similar to like Outlast, where you you just swap your camera around a full 180. That would overall like how would repairing a generator work? Like that would be really weird, just seeing a gen in your face
No one would
literally
repair a
eating up
generator.
the whole screen. It would be interesting. It would be probably really fun for a few days, but it would get old and very frustrating very quickly.
Yeah.
The meta would be like someone on a generator and then someone on a lookout.
Yeah.
That's what it would be.
Yeah, it does sound like it would be a fun idea. Maybe a different game mode, perhaps, but I like the idea that it would be immersed. I think we mentioned it on one of the podcast issues about VR, for example, and said how much fun it'd be. And this game does lose the scare element. It goes from when you first start and being very scared, and then as the game progresses, it's then the killers that are scared of the, top survivors. All right.
But it's all only if you like actually have a survive with friends that's not scary. Like if you have like solo queue or survive with friends with outcomes, you still don't know what killer you're facing. So you might get jump scared by a ghost face because you don't know it's a ghost face. While in survive with friends, they see it's a ghost face and everyone knows it's a ghost face. That's so that people just don't care anymore. And that's a fucking problem with that game mode but we can talk about it later if you want. Like, Survive with Friends just breaks the game, and not just Survive with Friends, but people that use communication, and they make the game not scary. Like, if you play solo queue and you don't know what the teammates are doing, and you don't know what killer you're facing, like, okay, let's say you don't cross a pool of plague, and then you get vomited of 32 meters, you get vomit on you over a wall. You're like, okay, it's a plague, fuck this, okay, I hate plague, But it's like the scare factor is not there at all if you can communicate with your team. If even SWF with outcomes is kind of scary because you still don't know it's a ghost face. You might know it, but your teammates that haven't met him yet doesn't know it's a ghost face. So they are still not really aware of it's a ghost face. But you don't know how to play against a killer because you don't know what killer you're facing against, which is this whole surprise factor that just is in the game, and that's the scary part. It's okay, it's not okay, killer don't find me, but it's what's a ghost face? Fuck, I hate ghost face or something like that. It's you still have something tense moments in the game, and especially if the killer is really fucking good and is pressuring a lot, you feel like it's a struggle of getting out, and that's how this game should feel like. Not in Survivors teabagging at every pallet and then know they can fuck up twice or 3 times and then getting out because, hey, their friends have your back, It's that's just the thing.
Yeah.
I disagree, personally. I don't think the game is even remotely scary as solo queue Survivor, at all. And jump scares don't make the game scary. It makes the game annoying, in my opinion. I rather they focus on actual scares like psychological horror, audio in the map. That's how you scare people, not by shoving a scary image in their face and a loud noise that wears off and gets more annoying over time. I think the game overall just is not scary because it's not really supposed to be at this point. It's more about looping.
Were you not scared when you first started playing, Tat?
I was scared for maybe 15 hours, and then after that it just was really
It does lose it pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, because it at the end of the day, it's not really different. Each game is pretty much the same. There's only maybe a handful of killers that you look at and you're like, oh yeah, that is kind of scary. Go against Myers looking at you 30 meters away. Yeah, that's unsettling. I wouldn't say it's scary though. Ghostface running around a corner, that gets you for 2 seconds, and then it's it's just a normal killer. Gotta run away. It's not scary. It's maybe intense, but definitely not scary.
Yeah, I mean scary in an oppressive way, because oppression and having this tough, tense situation of let's say you have a doctor that's really fucking good and he's really, really applying pressure to you, and you are I have to do this gen, and the doc might get me with his shock, and then he knows I'm here, he comes back, I'm in chase again. It's if you, let's say you are all in death hook and you have to still manage to do some gens, and you have a dog that is really oppressive and knows how to pressure, like that's just a tense moment, and that's what the scary is about this game. It's like you don't have this tense moment in communications because you will never get in the situation where you fuck up that severely that the dog actually wins against you. That's the problem. Like, and if you have those moments where you're like actually you can't really depend on anyone in your team because you can't communicate with them. They don't know what you are doing, and you hope they do what they have to do. And that's a tense thing, and that's what the scare factor of this game is, because you still don't know how to deal with some situations because it's kind of not in your power to make a situation into a situation that you probably like preferred playing in. It's like always, sometimes it's the killer that's far too good and knows how to pressure, knows how to loop and stuff like that. Your teammates don't do efficient on gens and stuff, and that's all adds for a tense atmosphere. And not like, I don't talk about jump scares. It's like just, oh wow, this killer's again here. Fuck this pressure. Like I can't do anything. That's something like having to think about how to get out of the situation. That's a tense thing. That is this game, and that's still only in solo queue, really.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got another question from Shadow. So we've already touched upon it, but what do you think is the real reason that behavior won't add a hook counter for each survivor for the killers to see? He thinks that the tunneling excuse is BS. Anybody else think the same?
I totally agree. It's got nothing to do with tunneling. If a killer wants to tunnel you, he'll tunnel you. He's just hooked you. He knows what you look like. He's going to come back to hook and hit you again. The old hard didn't have it, and tunneling was still a thing. So it's just, honestly, just an excuse of laziness. I think they won't add it because they can't be bothered. There's no logical reason why we as killers should not have that information. I mean, yes, we have to count, but if survivors have got that privilege, then killers should also get that information as well. And as I said earlier, we don't need a total hook counter. I'd rather have the individual ones, because if I'm having a tough game and it's getting to the end game collapse and I need to kill a survivor, I'm going to go after the person with the most hook states. So I think they should give that information to us. And honestly, there isn't a smart excuse as to why they shouldn't.
Anybody else?
Honestly, I just pretty much agree, and it does sound like just complete BS. But I couldn't really tell you the proper reason because like I said, I don't mind hook counter. I actually quite like it because every now and then I look at it and go, oh, okay, I'm doing well. But that's the only reason I like it. I don't particularly care for it. I don't need it. It honestly does nothing really for me. And at least the counter above the player would save like people say everyone dressing in the same cosmetic, or it would just, I don't know, it would just give us more information, and instead of me just having to focus on remembering who I've hooked as well.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't seem logical why they haven't put it on. I agree. I don't understand if if you're tunneling someone, if you're not. I think everyone pretty much can tell that when they're playing killer, but strange one. So Shadow, hope that answers your question. We don't know the reason why, but we do think it's pretty.
I would say something about that as well. It's probably because the devs expect the survivors to be stupid, like they play survivors, and they need that counter. But what they don't understand is that actually, if survivors use their brain, the killer needs that information. It needs to count who is on death hook because they need a kill ASAP. Because survivor objective is 4 times easier than killer. Like Killer doesn't just have to hook people 12 times to get them all dead from hook. You also have to get rid of all pellets, which is like something like a small thing that you can see which survivor is on what hook, and if there's already, are your chases actually efficient right now, or are you just one hooking everyone and then in the end lose because you don't have someone on death hook when you need it? It's like for Killer, it's more important than for survivor, because it's just like, I think it's just like to protect solo queue from getting even worse, but it's just like it also helps survive with friends, so yeah.
Honestly, it seems it's just there to help. It does seem it is just there to help solo queues a little bit more. I think I think survivors who don't remember that someone's on death hook and goes back in the game to try to save someone is a good thing, and survivors should be punished for it. But I don't know, that's just my opinion on the matter with that. Because I feel like survivors should actually have to remember this stuff more often.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And killers like basically have so many things next to just doing generators and stuff, then that they could use something like that to make their life easier, because killer is the hardest role if you play against a team. Like if you play solo queue, like solo queue is the hardest role, I'm okay with that change, that maybe it pushes solo queue, but to say that killers don't get it because they don't want to encourage tunneling is just like, why? Like, you don't even know how to play killer, so why are you judging that shit?
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. And that, I mean, yeah. As I say, it doesn't make sense to me at all. I agree in what you're saying. I thought it would be a nice touch for survivors, because when you are playing solo, it's nice to see if you might encourage more team play, but unfortunately, I've been too preoccupied with the crazy hitboxes to realise. So generally, it's usually been me that's on the floor. Okay, guys. So, quick question. Hopefully, we'll be back before the new chapter. Now, we have mentioned about potential new killers, things like that. But what would you like to see brought in the next chapter? So we're not talking specifically about killers, just in general, what would you like to see happen to the game? Obviously,
nerfs too swift. Like, make them unplayable. Like, just remove them. Not remove them, but nerf them highly. Like, for every person in the Swift, debuff on generator progression time or healing time or something like that. Make Thanatophobia base for everyone that is in the Swift, because how they abuse the game, how they break the game, and still have like the power roll is ridiculous to me. And that the devs still haven't understand what an issue Survival Friends really is boggles my mind, because all the things that they did with Undying is like, Undying was a band-aid, so Survival Friends can't just spawn next to a totem and see, oh, there's a totem, let's cleanse it, and if they are unlucky, it's like, it doesn't matter. If they cleanse Undying, Ruin is still active. If they cleanse Ruin was like just teleported to a new dull totem. It was a counter towards this communication, I saw Hex totem, go and cleanse it thing. And no other perk in this game does that. It's just like, Survival Friends breaks everything in this game. Most perks are useless against Survival Friends. Most killers are useless against Survival Friends. And especially if you have communication, it's basically cheating. And if they don't want to do that to not screw over people that don't want to abuse the game, it's like they can't be like nice anymore about that shit. Like they don't notice that this game is on decay because all the issues in the game are particular Survival Friends or more important, like communication based, because no perk can counter 4-man Survival Friends that all sit in communications and tell each other where the killer is, what perks he's running before the others even meet the killer. Survival Friends breaks the game. It also keeps the game alive because more people playing it, but it just kills. It just like slowly decays. It's just like it just brings so much issues into the game that they have to address it.
Right.
Okay. Well, and when it comes to me with this side of it, yes, Survivor Friends do, of course. Survivor Friends have been like honestly a main talking point for a lot of things, because it's basically a good Survivor Friends you cannot beat.
in this day of DVD, but I disagree with Captain Salty about punishing. To me, it's to do with a bad game design and how the game was balanced around something. And I believe it's bad game design to punish people to, give them permanent thanatophobia just because they want to play a game with their friends.
Yeah, but then lose it without comms. And if you have comms, play casually. Like, oh, what is your day? Let's have a LAN party someday, something like that. Don't use in-game communications because that's what breaks the game. Not that you play with your friends because you try harding on communication and think it's competitive. That's just breaking the game. That's the difference. Like I said, they are survivor friends. Fungoose, for example, that plays with 4 really good survivors. And they all are not on comms, but they still have, it's still a difficult thing. But if a killer knows how to play against that, he can win. Against communications, you can't win. That's not possible. And especially if you try that hard that you have all the meta perks with like millions of second chances, and in the end there's a key in case you fail so often that the killer might catch up to you. You still have a key and get out anyway. That's the problem. Like communication. Like, if you can't play with your friends, I don't care. But try-harding in voice comms and calling it competitive is just a joke. Yet this is basically cheating in the game. And you have to realize that voice communication is not a thing in Dead by Daylight because that the game is not based around like communication and teamwork. It's like it was always this solo queue game. And if you use communication, you should realize that you're basically cheating. And I have another example. Let's say you have a math exam and your teacher promises if the class is scoring 3.0 in the exams, he will invite them to go and eat dinner, get gyros for dinner. And let's say there's a Captain Salty that is never like studying for math because he knows he will fail anyway and he would waste his time and he plays Dead by Daylight or something other games. And then everyone else scores a 3.0 or better and I fail, and then the score is 3.2, and now everyone is pissed, everyone gets punished because one person is doing bullshit and is not behaving. And that's the same thing with Survivor Friends. Just because some people take this game way too serious and have to try hard on communications and use broken perks, break the game and stuff like that, use map offerings, stuff like that, everyone has to suffer because it's the same problem. It's like, just because those things are in the game doesn't mean you can defend it. And that's the problem.
Captain.
How are map offerings broken though?
Because in Survival Friends, they send you to farm, and farm is a broken map. If you play against a team with communication on a farm map, you lose. That's basically it.
I play against Survive with Friends all the time, and I perform perfectly fine.
It's not on communication. They are like different Survive with Friends. Like, you know how they play. That's how they play. Because if you see there's one generator on 99, and Ruin is active, and they will call out that this generator is on 99, so they will sit on it. So basically, if you go to the next chase, everyone sits on a generator and does a generator. That's how you can see it's communication.
With this subject,
calling communication like with Discord cheating makes no sense.
No, if it would not be cheating, they would implement it in a fucking game. Realize that you are basically cheating because you're using communication, which was not
because it is literally supported by the game.
No, it's not.
Overlays. It is. It is.
It's
They've openly said VC is not cheating.
But they also said
it makes no sense.
But they've also said they won't implement voice communication because that's not how the game was designed, and that's basically you cheat. That's basically you cheating.
In like a normal game is just annoying.
Oh yeah, you know why it's not annoying in other games? Because it's something like League of Legends. You have 4 versus 4. If both have communication, both have the same time. The killer can't communicate with anyone. What can he do against a guy, against a team that knows everything that the killer does all the time, even though the killer doesn't have even seen them? That's the broken thing. And defending that shit is just part of the issue.
Fine in those situations.
No, you don't.
Yes,
I promise
I do,
you.
actually.
No, it's not
It's
not a top tier game play with fucking communications. You might maybe play against a good Survivor Friends without comms, but not with the comms because even in tournaments,
you're
the killer is in comms.
You're versing SEAL Team 6 every game. I highly doubt that.
No, I don't say I verse it every time, but like those games exist.
I believe
those games exist.
I believe the issue if you are versing these top tier Swifts every game, I don't believe the issue is Swifts. I believe the issue is you as a player.
No. It's like they break the game. And
How?
you know that. Yo, 4 men, you already 4v1, and then everyone is on communication. So you're basically 8 versus 1. How is that not
Just kill
breaking the
them.
game?
How does
Just kill
having
them.
four people all having comms with each other like double the amount of people on the team from 4 to 8? That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any
Everyone
sense,
knows
Kirby.
what the killer is doing at the same time. That equals A. You know, like you have one guy that sees a totem, everyone knows the totem is there. So basically you have 4 people that know the totem is there. If you have one guy in a chase that sees the killer's brutal strength, like basically all 4 people know he has brutal strength without even facing them. So basically the survivor have more information than they should have and basically counter all what the killer's doing. The killer's not
Okay.
Mr.
Let's just stop
Hellgamer,
this subject no matter what.
If you try to defend that
Everybody,
shit,
everybody, let Jay talk. It's his
Right.
podcast. Let him talk.
Mr. Hellgamer.
Like what the fuck?
Captain Salty, just give me 2 seconds. Mr. Hellgamer came up with a solution. He said, like a normal voice chat ability, but if the killer closes his speaker, the survivors can't talk to each other anymore. And if they try to give information to each other, the killer will notice. So, I mean, the thing is, guys, Survivor Friends is here to stay. There's nothing that's going to change that. No matter how much people complain about it, no matter how much we agree or disagree. I mean, we discussed about top teams last week. I think if you have a top Survivor Friends team, you're going to struggle. You are going to struggle against that top team. But like how me and Captain Salty got into the debate was, what is a top team? So I think we'll leave the Survivor Friend chat at the minute because we've got a few questions in. So Shadowhunter, question, what are some of your theories about the demo buff coming soon? We mentioned this last week. I don't think any of us really had a theory, did we? Did anyone have any more on that? Any theories on what the Demogorgon changes could be?
So I mentioned last week about the heartbeat. So going over portals, you haven't got to use your shred. So it's just a good source of information, kind of like with Pyramid Head's gulag on the floor. That could be really good. I think just increasing his base teleport speed and reducing the cooldown from teleports would be nice. Maybe even shorten the shred timer and shorten the stun duration.
Yeah.
Just kind of like with Clown, where Clown got a lot of speed boosts on certain actions. Demo really needs that because he feels so sluggish and slow with no add-ons. So I just think his base kit needs a bit more. I don't think his power really needs changing. He just needs that sort of Clown love where he just needs his movements to be a bit quicker. That's my thoughts on him.
Anybody else?
I wanna add on top of that I don't think you should have to teleport to one of your portals to be able to get Killer Instinct info from it. I think it should be you put it down and then it gives you the info so you can then teleport to it rather than you have to make it visible and exposed to the survivors before you can get any info from it.
So you mean a close one should get info as well?
Yeah, like the ones that they
Yeah,
can't
it would
see
be.
because that adds like an actual stealth factor to it.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, would agree on that.
That would be great. I honestly just, with both of those things we said, I'd love both of that to be for demo.
Yeah, I mean, we're all presuming it's going to be a buff. Yeah, I mean, I can't see them nerfing him in any way, shape, or form because he's not one of the top killers, really, is he?
Yeah, but he has kind of map pressure. Like, if they don't cleanse your portals, you can warp around the map. So it's like, it's not bottom tier, but also not high tier. So if you buff him too much, you have Freddy level. So
Yeah.
I would be careful with that shit.
I definitely think they should make what's the island, like rat liver? Just make that base kit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does seem to be a popular opinion. One more question as well, guys. There was a question from Hellgamer again. Let me just find out. How do you think Up the Ante can be reworked? Let me just... Up the Ante. That's Ace, isn't it? Is that an Ace perk? I'm really...
Yes.
Was Up the Ante the luck one, or was that the aura distant one?
Up the Ante's the one that increases your luck by 3, 6, or 9%.
Yeah. So all will be on the end. You just know it. Your confidence strengthens the feeling of hope for those around you. For each survivor still alive, grants a... Mine says 1, but it is level 1. I've got it on. Bonus of luck to all remaining survivors. How could that be updated?
I think the luck mechanic as a whole is really terrible. So rework luck, and then after you rework how luck works, then take a look at up the ante. I'm not sure how you would change luck to be not completely useless and irrelevant to the game, but
Yeah. Does anybody use up the ante?
I think the last time I used it was literally in a niche Kobe build, like with slippery meat. So
Yeah.
Exactly the same. I was forced by stream to use it, and I actually Kobe'd, so I guess that's its use.
Yeah, but playing with the RNG perks is always dangerous. Like you see it in totem perks, you see it in if they want to buff up the ante, they have to be careful with that, because if that becomes too RNG, like it just breaks like any amount of skill that is necessary for this game. You know, that's a problem.
Okay, but the thing is, when it comes to me and like luck builds and stuff, and this goes to me with like card games as well. You know, card games I really like, but I'm someone who likes a coin flip thing or something as well. So I honestly just, if I use up the ante, I enjoy it just for the fact that I like chances, and I would say I'm a little bit of a gambler when it comes to games.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and that's gonna give you that. I mean, as I said, personally, I don't use it. It's pretty much the same reason I don't use the totems. I just don't like relying on luck and where they're gonna spawn and things like that. So I don't particularly use them in the game. So, okay, another question, guys. This is from Tristan again. What licensed killer do you think is most likely to be introduced into DBD? Realistically, with the current knowledge we have,
Springtrap.
Who? Sorry.
Because the devs were talking about Springtrap on their Twitter, on their Twitch. Like the McLean mentioned on the Twitch stream that they found concept art and concepts of fans of the game, and they already have like pre-designed Springtrap. Like it will come in the future, but I don't know when it comes. So they actually said it will come. They like the idea of Springtrap because people were like thinking about how to design the menu and stuff. And the devs are a big fan of that idea of having Springtrap in the game.
I do not want Springtrap in this game, but just be
I
honest,
don't,
because
but it will come.
How popular the fucking FNAF community is and how much it's taken the fucking horror game community by storm, it would be fucking ridiculous if they didn't add it to the game.
Yeah.
Just because of how popular it is, but I do not want to see it. And I'm actually someone who doesn't mind FNAF. But I don't want it in DBD.
Yeah, the thing is, DBD is not scary enough to make those horror killers actually feel like killers. Like, for example, if you think about something like the pig, it's like in the movies, like you don't know where it is, and now and DBDs laugh about. You know, it's like it's that franchise. You just butcher franchises with Dead by Daylight, in my opinion. It's like you have like this horror killer, this fear. Some people are afraid of that killer, and then you play DBD and you like think, oh, it's a laughing stock. You know, it's like that's the thing. It's like it's dangerous to bring licenses because you just butcher the whole character behind that.
Well, using that look, arguably the perfect place for FNAF because it's already not scary and a very jokey franchise.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I can hear what you guys are saying. Springtrap, I remember last year, you know, the hysteria around him coming into the game, and I thought, actually, can they ignore this hysteria? Because, you know, you'd make a Springtrap video, and I've seen people have like 200, 300,000 views instantly, you know, and there was a petition that was going around, was getting mentioned in all the forums. I still don't think it would happen. I mean, what you've said today, Cptsalty, is the first I've heard of that, so that's quite interesting. For me, Tristan...
Yeah, they mentioned it on stream. They never said it will come, but they find the concept of it interesting, and like people were sending them concepts of that character, and they was like, yeah, we take a look at it. So it maybe might come, Don't know, but I don't think it will be next killer. If it will be next killer, like, of course you all know it, but it's like it will probably come in the future.
Yeah.
That's it's like not a guarantee.
Yeah. In answer to your question, Tristan, my realistic license would be Candyman. I think that's something that's been brewing for so long. I do think the delay in the video and the film release has had something to do with it. So that would be mine. I don't know. Anybody else?
Well, maybe it could be also the delay. Could you just imagine that that because of the delay in the movie is why we got the twins instead of Candyman? Could you imagine that? And that's why the twins was completely busted.
Yeah, that's. I mean, if I remember rightly, I think we got the rumors about Candyman was when we got Blight, I believe. Was Blight just before the twins? He was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the rumours were that, and as I say, these are just rumours, you know, that Candyman, he's been hinted quite a lot by developers. The tweets that go on from the person who plays the Candyman in the film. It's just been brewing up so much. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I think we've got since then Blight and the twins.
So that thing, there was also that thing with the Discord server that all their icons, every single one of the channels and icons got changed to have a B at the front of it.
Yeah.
Which was another people that theorized would also be the reason it could be Candyman as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other licensed killers? Nobody's mentioned Jason, I see. Has that one died a death now?
I would love Jason, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those ones that are very much on the rickety side of a licensing issue because there's a massive legal battle between the Friday the 13th franchise currently. Yeah. So it would be great, but it's just a massive legal battle going on right now.
Yeah.
I would like some sort of a Resident Evil chapter.
That's
like a
the
Tyrant,
rumor. Yeah,
Mr. X, or Nemesis. I just think a Resident Evil chapter would be perfect for DBD. Even though Capcom has been very, we'll say, they've almost been trying to compete with Dead by Daylight, with Resident Evil Resistance, which is already dead. They pulled the support, and they're coming out with Resident Evil Verse as well. But hopefully they cave in and actually give us something, because I think it would be really awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I am looking forward to the next licensed character. I'm not sure. I mean, Chapter 19. That's going to be the 5th year, isn't it? The 5th year anniversary. Is that? Have I got my date right? I think it's going to be the 5th year anniversary because I think it was a year since the Silent Hill one. Resident Evil has been picking up momentum as well. Again, don't know why or the reasons why that came on, but yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Tristan. Tristan, you've mentioned about Jason has another lawsuit, so it's currently impossible to obtain. Poor Jason. He is wrapped in legal troubles.
The RE thing. The one thing I'm worried about when it comes to Resident Evil is because we just had a new Resident Evil game come out, and I don't want it to be that game over like RE2 or RE3 remake, because I don't imagine. I just don't want to do a like Resident Evil.
Are you saying you don't want a tall woman to step on you? Yeah.
No, I don't want to play.
The vampire lady.
That's what I don't want.
I think all I want from a new killer is I want an M1 killer. I'm sick of these killers with different mechanics. Please just give me an M1 killer of sorts.
Same. The only not M1 killer I play is actually Hack because it can handle so I have friends pretty easy.
Back to the question, guys.
No,
we're not gonna. We're gonna forget about Survivor Friends.
Yeah, man.
For the
before I rubbed pieces out of Neo and the other fanboys.
Oh, behave. Right. So, new chapter. The question was, what would you like to see brought in? So we've mentioned Survivor Friends. We'll leave that there. Anything else?
Fix the animations.
Yeah.
I would rather the next patch just be a health patch. I don't want a new killer. I just want them to fix their game. That's all I want. I want to be able to play Survivor, have fun, have none of these problems, none of these bugs. I just want to play the game. They need a health patch. Forget the new killer. Forget a new Survivor. Give me a health patch. That's what I want.
Anybody else?
On the Q&A where they were mentioning the health patch stuff, that they didn't want to do a health patch, but they wanted to make the mid chapters a lot bigger. And there's also, I think I'm worried about, this was mentioned by Scorpions about the animation, is that them sort of attempting to try make a more realistic animation could actually hurt the game longer in the long run, because think about old game, like more of the older generation of games, usually the one that tried to go to realism has died off very quickly and hasn't aged well. But games like Rayman 2 or like the cartoony games have aged perfectly well. So it's honestly, if they're trying to make DBD looking more realistic, it will not age well for the game.
Like for example, you had like animation that just worked. Why changing that? That's the whole point. It's like was not needed to change that. That's the whole point behind this debate. It's like it worked. Like, okay, you had hitbox bugs, but they were like in the game for 4 years and they haven't still fixed that shit, you know. But now they have more problems because of the new animation no one asked for. And it's like never change the running system.
I mean, I don't understand the new animation. I mean, I've looked at it and I'm just like, it's not natural. And I think back to when I watch videos and I think when we first loaded in, your survivor was crouched down, they looked like looking around, you know, when they ran. I just don't get it. I don't get what the purpose of the change was. And I know I'm probably in the majority here that think that, but I just don't get it. I don't even think it looks natural. When they're running, it just doesn't look normal for me. I don't know why. It's disappointing. I don't know if it's affecting the gameplay as well, because I'm running along as a survivor thinking, what the hell's my survivor doing? It just looks ridiculous. And I just had to say that because it's just been bugging me. Every time I load in and I see my survivor, it stood like he's just had a
stick man, like a stick man, like a sticker up his butthole or something like that. It's like,
and I'm like, what on earth are they doing? What is happening? So yeah, so for me, that would hopefully be one of the change. I know they've not mentioned animations. I can't imagine them going back on animations, but at least make them a little bit realistic, please. That would help a lot. Anybody else got any wish list for the next chapter?
Removing perk tiers. Like I saw a thing on Reddit that was upvoted like 5,000 times. Like they say, oh, just remove the perk tiers. There's no point of that having anymore because so many perks are now mandatory, especially on killer, because gen speed is going up because of the fix to the FPS and stuff. Survivor gets more popular. More people get their friends in, so if your friends gets more popular, and you need those slowdown perks against those teams. Like you can't just play with no perks, with normal perks, and like consider, and you can't just play the content that you aiming for with like not the perks that you actually wanted. And through the grind, through the perk, for the blood waves, like it's obnoxious. Like until you get the perks that you actually need to play on a more challenging level, and you have to deal with that without those perks that you probably need because of bad game design, you know, and you suffer just because of that, and just play co-op intervention and then put it off and then see the difference of how your games go. It's a huge difference, for example. And some killer perks are mandatory, especially instead of survivors that basically don't really need a perk because they just have to hit it with one, and no perk really helps you hit it with one. But killer perks need something else, like something chase perks to make the time better in things, like slow down to make like they're giving more time to actually do something. And it's like, especially for killers, the perk grind is ridiculous. And by this point, is just like hurting the killer experience in general.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I do. I'd like to see the perk tiers drop off and you just get straight to level 3. So, okay, just a couple of things to catch up on from the comments. So, Tristan mentioned, he brought up, you might have to clarify something on this, Tristan. So, he's brought up was making the damage survivors take have a permanent effect during the round, even after healed, making them more of a, I presume you mean liability over time? You might.
I understand what he means. Like,
Yeah.
probably something like if they get hit and they don't heal, that they get like some type of debuff if they don't get healed for a certain amount of time. That they basically are encouraged to heal, which is like what I want in this game, because you can basically sit with resilience on a generator and be injured, and like you can just hammer through it. It's like there's no penalty of it. Like, I always think like if they are bleeding too long, they should be broken for the rest of the game. It's like punish the people for not healing,
Yeah.
something like that.
It's very much a concept that could be very, very good for the game, but also very, very bad for the game. It's just more deciding on how the devs would implement it.
I mean, they removed Telatophobia healing debuff, so they want people to heal. So that's basically it. But they have to implement something that is like making people heal and not just like sitting on objective like injured. You know, it's like slow down the game because survivors have to heal sometimes or something.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, just for that reason, to slow down the game. But I'm putting my killer hat on while I say that. I'm trying to think of it as a survivor. How would I feel about that? Because sometimes, if I'm confident in a game, I might decide to stay injured all game and just take that risk. Another question, guys, from Alex. How do you think we can make the game really scary?
It's I don't want this game to be scary. I reckon the game is I don't think this game should be scary. I think it's just how it is. I like it. If they honestly made the game like way more scary, or they boost up the spook factors in the game, the best, which this was mentioned earlier, the best way to make this game more scary is audio. Is definitely audio when it comes to immersion of sound, and maybe like as you're walking you can hear like some creaks of the old building or something. That's the best way to honestly add horror to the game. But I don't think you can really have an interaction that the killer can do to the survivor. I feel is not the right way to add more horror to this game.
Yeah. Yeah, go on, Potato, sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say a few things. So, in terms of jump scare factor for scaring, remove like survivor perks that give you that advantage over stealth killers. I think if you're a stealth killer, you should be able to jump scare a survivor quite easily, increasing the sort of horror factor. Like, even if you've got spine chill on, you still got to be like looking around. That can be quite intimidating and quite scary. Tat mentioned earlier about like the sound, and Nio just did again. You know, changing the sound, ambient noises would be really, really good as well. And lastly, the Mori animations, make them a bit more graphic and gruesome for especially the older killers like Trapper, Wraith, and Nurse. They're also basic and bland.
Yeah.
Just spruce them up a bit. I think if they just tackled those 3 things, the game would be a bit more scary. But as Nio said, this isn't really like an insane horror game. It's more of like an action game with horror killers in it. I wouldn't say it's a
like
horror game,
mouse,
like,
isn't it? It's a bit like cat and mouse.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a cat and mouse game. Let's be honest. That's pretty much the entire concept of DV. An edgy cat and mouse
just
game.
have the power roll over supernatural beings, which is still the biggest joke in the world.
Yeah. No, I mean that's it. It's like I said, it loses its horror pretty quickly, but there is more to it. I think if you play a game where, you know, I think there's Phasmophobia or Phasmophobia, I can't remember its name now, but a game like that looked, when I watched the gameplay, it looked more scary, more jump scare, things like that, but it was a completely different game to what DBD is. All right, we've got another question, guys. I'm presuming this is going to be aimed at Tat and Potato from T-Rex. How do you think we can get the devs to remove Cheryl?
No, we need to add more Cheryl. Every survivor, when you load in, I don't care who you pick, you're loaded in as Cheryl, and you just got to deal with it. That's what I think should happen. End of discussion.
I second this. All survivors should be Cheryl.
Yeah.
That would make
Can we
you
ban-
two's Valentine's Day, wouldn't it?
Can we please ban this
Yes.
person for asking this terrible question? Get out.
Yeah,
Please.
T-Rex, you've been told there. You've been told there. We need more of Kate. We've got Kate. You know what? This for Hypo, we're going to put, where's she at? A bit of Kate on for you. I don't even know where she's at.
We're about to have a waifu battle again.
She's in the trash bin where she belongs. Put
Next to-
Cheryl on
next to
and keep
Adam.
her on.
Next to Adam. In between Tap and Adam.
See, it shows how much you don't play Kate.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Can't even find her.
Oh, look, she's armed with a little flashlight there, ready to go. So, Shadow, can we get her on the show? Cheryl, if she's listening, and she comes up on the show, yep, we can try definitely for next time. So, last question, guys. Question from T-Rex. It's not the last question. I was going to say last question from me. We'll see if any more in the chat. Why is Blight such a great killer? I'm presuming that's going to be aimed at SkinnyQuinny.
I mean, it's very obvious, isn't he? He's Blight. There's your answer. No, in all seriousness, he's very, very fun and very, very addicting, and that's probably why.
Okay, I can say it on the like better level. It's like it's something that DBD killers miss. It's like the catch-up mechanic of actually catching up to survivors that have like a huge distance advantage over you. Just like someone walks through a window, gets life, and you just like run afterwards, and life doesn't do anything for the survivor. You know, it's like this power roll thing of like the survivor can't get away from you. It's same with Spirit, for example. It's like you hit the survivor, and then the survivor's going, and you have Strider on, and you will always find the survivor and down him. It's like you basically can't escape Blight if he's good, and that's what makes him powerful.
Yeah, I agree. If a plague, it's a shame because I don't see many Blights out there. But when you do, and you play against a good Blight, I'm always in trouble. I just can't get away from the guy. Another question. I'm hoping I say your name right. Is it Moantis? Do you think there's a good way to remove some of the RNG elements from the game, like pig traps, to make extreme less frustrating? So, I believe RNG plays a big part in the game. Really does. And this is why I always say you can't play competitively and think you're going to win every game, because it is very RNG dependent. What do you guys think?
I think the main problem with removing RNG in general is like, I know on certain maps, like certain windows will be open and certain doors will be there or whatever. The thing is, if you keep it consistent, survivors will learn all of these maps very, very well, and there's no randomness to it. So they'll just loop you on these loops consistently all the time, and it's always the same game.
Yeah.
So I think they do need to have some RNG when it comes to maps. When they spawn in, like certain, like the house is turned on cowshed, I know certain windows are open and closed. The same with totems as well, because obviously if you have the same hexes spawn in the exact same place, you're always gonna find it as survivor. So unfortunately, RNG does need to exist in those areas. But on things like pig traps, obviously there's nothing they can do. It needs to be random. When the trap goes on your head, one of the boxes is going to have the key, and that's RNG. There's nothing they can do. The same with Trapper. I know they've changed it to make it a little bit better for him. But overall, I wouldn't say the game is too heavily RNG. I know Salty might strangle me if I say that too much, but yeah, I think they do need it in those certain elements.
Anybody else?
The problematic RNG is the spawns of Survivor and Killer. Like I explained that one time. I said like depending on where you spawn the map, Survivor spawns are harder to find. So if you spawn in the middle of the map, for example in Cheddar Woods, the survivor can spawn in all corners. So you have to check all the corners, and that takes a long time to actually find survivors there. If you're lucky and you guess right correct and they spawn this corner, then you have like less time wasted. And this like survivor spawn should always be constant, because it doesn't matter where the killer spawns, or killer spawns every time in the same fucking place. And so it's like the early game of a killer is already suffering, and that would just help anything. That would be RNG, that would be perfectly okay if that would be removed. Like that killers can spawn in the middle or out or in the corner, and like if you spawn in the corner, it's more likely that you can find survivors, because you can basically neglect all things around you, and you know it's on the other side of the map. But if you spawn in the middle, it can be behind you in a corner, or it can be in front of you in the corner. You know, it's like you have to patrol more routes of that, and that's where like RNG really hurts, because if people would actually make statistics of where killers spawn and how the game goes, for example in Fresh Out Cowshed, it's good, because survivors will always spawn in the shack, immer, all the time in the shed. And if you know that, you go there and find immediately the chase, which is the only way how you can not break, how this map is not completely broken. Like it has a pretty same spawn. So if a killer doesn't know where the survivor spawn, check the cow shed. There's always at least one survivor spawning there. But on other maps, like depending where the killer spawns, it's far harder to find survivors in the engineering in this first chase. And we all know the early game for the killer is the most important thing, and he already suffers in that. So, yeah.
Yep, fair enough. Another question. So, Alex, can we have Yui as all survivors? Alex, you'll have noticed I've changed Yui on the screen for you. Tristan, this did make me laugh a bit, but I mean, there is a serious side to the question, I presume. What would you think of being able to kill the killer? I can see Cptsalty against a survivor friend being kicked on the floor. I can see that being a bit problematic. But he said, I want to see a level 1 Dwight Maury, a level 40 Oni. Is there any chance at all that you could have some sort of defense to get the killer?
Next question. We don't answer stupid questions.
No, sorry, but just saying that.
CS:GO update to DBD. It's gonna be great.
The day I can see Survivors 360 no scope the killers off the top of Rust is the day DBD gets better.
It makes it interesting.
Those are the people that say it's killer-sided, that they want to kill a killer and make them not having any perks or something, or delete killers. Like,
you don't need to turn DVD into Friday the 13th.
No, this is what happens, right? When you open the doors and you're all just, if everyone escapes, right, there's a little animation at the end where you're all just killing the killer, just for the bans, because why not?
Yeah.
That's it.
Then you can see a level 1 Dwight Maury and a level 40 Oni. Another question, Shadow. Can we get Yev on the show? Sorry, not who is Yev? Another content creator, I'm presuming.
Noed Army. Woo!
Oh, did he start a Noed Army?
Yeah, he started it.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that, Tat?
I could probably shoot him a message at some point. But...
Oh, do you know him? Right?
Yeah.
He's commenting on this video. I saw it. Do you prefer survivor or killer?
Yeah. So we'll have a look at that if you want to do that, Tat, for when we return back at some point. That would be amazing. Yeah, I didn't realise. Sorry, you knew him, Tat.
Yeah, we do.
Right. That'd be good.
Personally, or just like subscribed.
I'm gonna go watch some of his videos after this now, because as I say, wasn't quite aware of him. Let's have a look. Can we get Ott as a survivor? Ott as a survivor.
I mean, we already have Keemstar as in the form of Jeff. So why do we need Otts? We've already got Keemstar.
I'll only accept Otts as a survivor if he's wearing the Supreme drip.
Yes, you know what? That would be nice.
Next question.
Every time you walk into the cowshed, it would go 1v1 cowshed.
Lol.
Survivors with custom chase music.
Yeah, we never really talk about survivors on this. It's always about killers. What kind of survivor would you want next? Would you want what sort of kit would you want to have? What sort of survivors do you think the game's missing?
A sandbag
Besides Cheryl.
survivor. A survivor that has perks that actually sandbag the team. That would be funny. Or something like if someone is working on a generator and you get down next to generator's blocked or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I've seen a custom perk once on the forum, and that made me laugh. And it was, I can't remember what they called it, but it was just a picture of a survivor on a hook kicking the survivor trying to run hook, and it was basically a perk you could have when that survivor's basically farming you in front of the killer. You get the option just to kick him in the face and save yourself getting unhooked in front of them. So that
I saw a version of that.
That'd be quite
with,
interesting perk. Yeah.
If the killer sees you and you get unhooked right in front of the killer, you can DC without penalty. That's something I saw. It's like I could imagine this perk being meta then, man. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Have the survivors hug the killer's leg to slow them down when carrying someone.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Yeah. So you could have a flashlight, you could have a survivor on the leg, you could have Saboteur, Breakout as well. It'd be really, really, really interesting. Imagine that as a 4-man squad. Yeah.
For that to work, everyone would have to commit on you for that to work, so I wouldn't even be mad.
Yeah, that would certainly be interesting. Right. Okay, any more questions, guys? Any other things to say? I'd like to see Potatolegion survive. I think you've got a bit of a fanboy, Potatolegion.
I don't blame him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, I can see what's happening here, but T-Rex, you seem to be really enjoying Potatolegion lately.
We have the problem that Tat's biggest fanboy is also in this podcast, so, Tat.
Is that, I'm presuming that's yourself, is it, Nio?
Yes.
Yeah? Alright.
I hate you all the same.
Yeah.
I'm not fanboy anyway.
I think he's my fanboy, really, Cptsalty. He always
Who?
my fanboy.
I'm trying to bring you on my side, man. I'm trying to open your eyes
Yeah.
on the issue.
No, I just feel left out.
SkinnyQuinny,
I'll fanboy over you, Quinny.
Quinny doesn't need any fanboys. He's blight. He just runs. There's no reason he's got no fanboys is because no one sees him. He's already ran off because he is blight.
They don't catch up to me.
So, right, let's have a look. Any more questions?
I think brother was asking a question about what is our idea of a good team, because he thinks people don't know what they're actually talking about.
Right, just to put some context behind this. So I think I was in your server today talking about this potato at one point. Cptsalty sent me a video, and I know we've name dropped Chptsalty in that before because he'll put a title on saying me versus top 1% teams. Another content creator had put on that they were versing one of the top teams. Cptsalty sent me this video. I read it and I was just like, I watched it and I was like, wow. I mean, it started off with a survivor just crouched looking at the killer, and I was like, how is that a top team? So brother did ask and said, what is your opinion of a top team? Now, I know me and Cptsalty had a bit of a backwards and forwards about it last week, but I want to ask the rest of you guys, what is a top team?
A productive team. A team that doesn't waste a second. A team that is constantly on a gen. A team that knows who's going in for the save, when it needs to be done. A team that has good looping and uses resources correctly, and in good communication. And yes, the best teams out there ideally are probably on comms, but you don't necessarily need to be on comms in a Swift to go against a really good team. I've gone against good teams in the past, and I've asked them in game chat, you guys are Swift? Like, Jesus, you are so well coordinated. And they're just like, no, we're not. We're just all good survivors.
Yeah, of course. No, that's the biggest lie ever.
Yeah, I know. But I'm going to take their word on it. But, there are perks in the game like Bond, Prove Thyself. And honestly, like, I'd say I'm a pretty good solo survivor. I will always be on a gen when I can be, and as long as survivors are just doing the objective and being productive, the killer's always going to struggle. And if they bring perks like We'll Make It as well, so when someone goes in for save, they're instantly healing them with We'll Make It as well. So honestly, the best teams are just the ones that are productive, don't do the secondary objectives like totems unless they're needed to be done because there's like Devour on the field or Ruin, and not doing chests. You know, they're just smashing out gens. That to me is a top tier team.
Yeah. And that was following on from last week when I rewatched the video, because I was saying I was playing a top team, and obviously we got into a bit of debate. When I checked that video again, I actually looked and I thought, actually, they weren't the best at looping. They weren't the best. They were running to the right places, but they couldn't loop me for too long. However, they were very, very efficient, and I'd agree. A top team for me is efficiency on the gen. So they are putting in the time on the gen, splitting up. I think I said it last week. If I've got Discordance on and that doesn't go off, I panic. I'm like, okay, have these guys split up? Because they're the effective teams and they're just spreading out. They're going to gens. Like you said, Potato, they've got the right perks to complement the game itself. And it's not even... the best teams I've played haven't had like what we call the small PP build. You know, they've had a mixture. So we've had one person approve by self. And they've been a Swift. I think a big telltale sign when they're not a Swift, going back to what you said there, Cptsalty, about not believing them. If I see Kindred on there, I don't believe I'm playing against a Swift, or certainly not one that's on communication, because they can just talk to each other otherwise. So when I see Kindred on there, I have a bit more admiration for the team, because generally there might be two, a duo maybe, but generally there is some solo players in there. Anybody else?
That's just great Kindred of a perk for solo players. Kindred is an amazing perk for solo queue.
Yeah, definitely. Don't leave home without it. Tat, your definition of a top team?
Potato pretty much covered everything I was gonna say. Just the main thing was definitely resource management and time efficiency. Like you're not wasting pallets. You understand that windows are actually stronger than pallets. You can chain tiles, you think outside the box, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Skinny?
Pretty much what everyone else has said. It's efficiency is the go-to thing that makes teams good.
Yeah. Okay, Cptsalty?
Well, you could see like that potatoes or boosted survivor or baby survivor that gen rush you would be good then in this things. Like just because someone is efficient on gen doesn't make him a good player. Because in this game, like nothing else matters than just gens. But like if people can actually loop the killer, if the killer gets it off the gen and the killer can't catch him, then it's a good team. Because every time you can say, okay, they just rush gen. So you go there, push them off, and they are worse at looping. But if they also are really top tier loopers, and all of them, and you can't find the weak link, that's when it's top team. Not just because they are efficient on gens. Because every time you push them off the gen, and it regresses through Ruin, for example, and then they know how to loop. They basically know how to chain tiles and stuff like that, and you basically know you can't catch them, and you have to wait till they drop the pallet. And only then it's a top team, if they can do that. And it's really hard to describe that, to see that, because you have to see it. You have to realize the difference between guys that know the map is so safe they can just pre-drop every pallet and get away with that shit, but that most of the time is survive a friend because their buddies just do their job. But in a thing is like, if someone knows it's a safe pallet, they don't drop that. They go down without dropping that shit, because they know dropping that pallet makes it one less pallet for the killer, and that means like in the end game they have one less pallet to do. A good team will never drop a pallet and still loop the killer forever. And that's like something, and while the team is on gens. And that's where you have no hope of actually everything doing anything as a killer. And that is really fucking rare. And most of the time those are in communications, because the people everyone knows what the killer's running, knows the perks and stuff like that. And especially in those cases, that's a really frustrating game, because there's not much you can do against that. If you have a really good looper that knows you are at the safe loop and doesn't drop the pallet, goes down without dropping the pallet, that means one of our objectives, getting rid of the pellet count in any map, is you're not able to do that objective. So you have to catch them off guard, but you won't catch a good team off guard. And that's like, that make it really fucking difficult. And that's also the game where Ruin prolongs the game, but doesn't really save the game for you. Something like that. And those teams are fucking rare. And the most times it's just boosted and Survive Your Friends abusers that are shit alone, but can only play with communications and get boosted by the teammates because they make up for the mistakes they do. That's basically it. Most people say that's a really good team, but it's just a boosted Survive Your Friends group in comms that just know how to do gens.
I think the key is, I think you have to have a bit of both. I mean, obviously, if I do agree in regards to the efficiency on gens. If they're efficient on gens, that is their only objective. So even if you chase one, even if you down them, the time it takes to down them, even if they're not very good loopers, the time it takes to hook them. And if we've all played solo, and you'll see when you get hooked, you'll see one person healing in a corner, you'll have one person crouched behind a tree. When you get hooked and you see 3 people on a gen, then you're like, actually, I've got a good team here, because the only way the killer's going to get pressured is when the gens are going, and then be forced to make mistakes, things like that.
I have to agree. I would disagree with that. If they all sit on one gen, it's not a good team.
No, I mean,
if they split on all gens, like across the map, something like Mother's Dwelling, if they sit in one corner, one is on the house, one is on the other side of the corner, then 3 gens popping, where you have one chase that you can't even finish because he knows where the god pellets are and loops around them, and he doesn't have to drop them. He goes rather down. Good survivor go down instead of dropping god pellets, and that's how you can see a good survivor. Like, if they loop check and they realize they would get down without the pellet, they just get down and take the hook, because what is one hook if your team is highly efficient, you know? And that's where a killer has no chance whatsoever. And that's just like demoralizing for most killers, because if they see it's a good survivor and doesn't drop those really good pellets, then one part of your objective is actually not possible. And like I said, survivor objective is easy. It's just like doing gens and timing everything efficient. But if you have, like, let's say all 4 people are really good loopers and you have no weak link, and they all know it's a safe pellet and they don't drop it, and they go down before they drop it, and then say, okay, I take this hook, it's one hook, the killer has no pressure, one hook doesn't pressure the team, so it's GG for the killer anyway.
Yeah.
And those teams where you have no hope of actually doing anything, like scaring them off, and actually those teams are really top, and I don't think that anyone played against those teams. Yeah. Maybe once in their life, but those teams are exactly the problem with this game. It's like, if Survivor's really good, coordinated, and on comms, on top of like them all being like really fucking efficient as a player, then it does breaks the game. And then can they bring keys and maps to find totems, stuff like that. They're efficient in everything they do, and they don't really fuck up that much. They know they can get downed in the loop, but don't drop the god pellet in this case. So the killer still has to deal with the god pellet later. You know, that's what good survivors do. They don't drop pellets if they don't have to.
Yeah. It brings me to another question, actually. So I want you guys to give me your killer secrets. So Cptsalty mentioned there, he recognises a good player if they don't drop an important pallet. Anything else that you guys look out for? Give me a telltale sign. I know you might not want to give the secrets away to your killer powers, but what makes you sit and think this player's a good player?
The biggest thing when I go, oh fuck, is when I'm playing Pig or Legion and they hold W.
Yeah.
Especially when I use my power as Legion. For anyone who, if I'm playing Legion and they don't heal, and when I use my power they hold W and split,
yeah,
I'm going to lose that game.
That's fair enough.
And another one is, for example, with Pig, when you crouch to dash out loops, is when they just leave the loop.
Yeah.
Those are big 2 signs from someone who plays a lot of Pig in Legion.
It's all a psychological thing as well. Like, you need to know the telltale signs whether or not you're going against a potato or if you're going against a good survivor. And obviously, the biggest telltale sign is if a survivor's looking behind them. So if you go, and you need to also understand the difference between a safe loop and an unsafe loop. So if a survivor is running to an unsafe loop and isn't looking behind them, they're probably going to drop the pallet, and that's when you go around and hit them. It's little things like that you need to pick up on, the way they're running, their behavior, and it determines how you run the loop. Like if you get to a jungle gym and you know where the window is, and you've been chasing the survivor previously, and you know that they look back and they know how to loop the different tiles correctly, then you know you need to immediately run the jungle gym the correct way. Whereas if you're going against Potato, you probably just run towards the pallet with them, and they'll probably just panic and drop it. So those are the biggest tips I can give. It's about understanding who you're going against in that first chase, and then remembering throughout the game how they play and how you should loop them in particular to counter it. Because obviously every survivor is different. Every survivor is going to lose a loop differently. So that's the biggest advice I could give.
One of the things to look for to see if it's a good survivor or not is just if they're patient. They're waiting to see what the killer does. Like an example is in Killer Shack. Like a good survivor is going to wait far enough away from the window so that they can still get a fast vault, but they're not going to vault until they see you actually walk into Killer Shack. A bad survivor is just going to immediately vault it, or they're going to be too close to the window and they're going to have a slow vault and you can hit them through the window. So a good survivor is just going to be more patient and observant of what the killer's doing.
Yeah, it's similar to what I was thinking, because I've said it on videos before. For me, it's a big sign when you see them waiting at pallets. So the old mind game, if I can get them to run away without breaking that pallet, I'd rather do that. But when you stand there and you see that survivor run off and do like a 360 and come back as if to go, you're not breaking that pallet, that's when I get an understanding that there might be of the better quality of these survivors. So, all right, guys. I don't think there's any more questions. So, did everyone answer that, by the way, about the telltale signs? I think they did, didn't they?
I didn't, but all I would say is pretty much agree with what people saying about like patience and like the kind of survivors that know how to read a mind game before like it happens, so that they don't fall for it. Those are the ones that are like always problematic for me.
Yeah, but there are also those survivors that know that the map is entirely safe and they can just camp every pallet and the killer can't do anything against it. That's the thing. It's like something in Suffocation Pit, the really fucking strong pallets in the middle. It's like if you have a wave and and you face a survivor that's just like camping every pallet because he knows they are ultimately safe, what can you do? Like you have to just break them and then go on. And if you have like, for example, new game, there's no mind game in most of them now. It's like even if a survivor knows they are pretty much fucking safe, and he can just like, there are so many of them, they can just pre-drop them all. And like if you go through all 26 pallets, the game is over. It's like that's safe, and that's when you feel like hopeless as a killer. Yeah, okay, you got rid of all the pallets, but what did you do? Like you don't get hooks, you don't get pressure on anything, And that's something that's frustrating, but it's also a game design failure.
It happens to us all. I played a game the other day. I didn't even get my first hook till the last gen popped. It was just like the problem I have. I don't know about you other guys. You might be a little bit more experienced, but I do get tilted. Not as in I'm gonna scream at my screen or shout at the telly, but I'll start lunging for stuff that maybe if I'm a bit more relaxed. But it's because I know the game's drifting away from me. But yeah, it does happen. It does happen.
Yeah, I'm getting so pissed off when I see someone screws up. Oh, never mind, dead hard. I hate this perk. Like someone that screws up and then dead hard out of his bad position and gets away with that shit. It's like that's why those perks are shit. Because someone obviously screws up but no, dead hard saves him. Carry me hard, And that's what I hate. It's like ridiculous. Like holy shit.
I'd have to disagree with you there, because I think Dead Hard's one of my favourite perks, and I don't think I screw up with it, but I might prolong a loop with it. So I might go that one more time, knowing I've got Dead Hard. I mean, normally half the time I'll end up Dead Harding into a crate or something, but I think it's intentionally used for that. I know it's meant to be a second chance perk if you do screw up, but I think the good survivors will use it just to prolong that chase. They'll go one more loop,
I saw so many loops where I would mind game them and then they're like, oh fuck, you don't mind game that hard. It's like you screwed up and you got rewarded for screwing up, and that's so often. It's like I completely like a toxic Nia that thinks she's good at looping. She was good at looping, but I outplayed her, you know. And then I could get a hit now, and like no, never mind that hard, you know. It's like fucking hell. It's like they make a mistake and they screw up and then they get rewarded for that by having this perk. Just pressing E outplay the killer. It's just stupid. It feels so tilting. Or if they have resilient spine shield and get through the window wall, which you would normally hit, it's so tilting. It's sometimes. It's like just, oh, this person is so bad. It just gets carried by his perks, man. It's so that tilts me.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you fucking boosted potato. Of course you have Death Heart and D-Strike. Of course.
Yeah.
I kind of have to agree with him there. There's a lot of times where I've had mind games that like they've completely fell for, and then all they do is like, oh no, press the E button, and then they're out of it completely, and then like the chase goes on for another 5 minutes because now they know the mind game I'm going to do, and they completely countered it even though they fell for it. Like it's annoying.
Yeah. I think there's going to be annoying things from both sides. I think it's.
I hit my screen today when I faced this Claudette with the fucking spatial resilience combo. It's like, I get you. Fuck this shit.
Oh yeah, I had that today. I literally I've played 1 killer game today, and the guy was click, and his flashlight, and I was like, what's he doing? I'm gonna hit him here, and he just had the resilience spine chill combo, and he was vaulting windows like some sort of, you know, Olympic hurdler. There was no catching him, and the amount of times I hit and I was like, I can see it on my screen, I'm gonna hit him, but he had the combo. But fair play, that was what he brought in. He aimed for that, and he done well with it. So anyway, guys, I digress a bit. So thank you very much for coming on. I'm hoping for the people watching, the live one was a little bit more interactive for you to join in. Thank you very much for Cptsalty, Nio, Potatolegion, Skinny, and Tat again for coming on this show. So the plan is, guys, I was hoping to take around 4 weeks little break from the podcast for this series. So we've done 10 episodes. So for all you guys, amazing the hours you've put in with me. Really appreciated it. And come back when it's nearer time to chapter release, because I'm sure by then we'll have built up quite a lot to speak about. I'm sure the devs will keep up the great work they're doing and giving us plenty of things to complain about in that time. So, but yeah, thanks again, guys, for coming on, and I will no doubt speak to you all separately anyway.
Thanks, Jay, for having me again, and thank you for your chat, for asking all your lovely questions.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to be on.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, great. It is.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to miss it, to be honest. I'm like 4 weeks. It's been a highlight of the Sundays just to get and vent and get things off my chest and get people's opinions. So, but yeah, I think it's probably is worth a little break, and I will finish the recording now, guys. So thank you to chat for coming on, and we shall speak again soon.